Imagine selling everything you own, taking your spouse, your three children, and traveling the world while your businesses are running. You're going to meet Adrienne Green, someone who's been doing that for over 2 years now. She's going to tell us all about it. Adrienne, I'm so excited to have you with me today. Thank you for spending some time.
I'm excited to actually speak with you, Cynthia. It's like, we knew each other in person years ago when we both were active real estate agents in Northern Virginia, and we stay in contact with Facebook. So it's good to actually, be face to face, voice to voice now. It'll be fun.
It is excellent. So we're both kind of following each other's journeys. And that's what I love about Facebook, right? Because it's like, oh, I think I need to go there. I need to go there. And then just seeing some of the places I've been, but watching what you post through your children's eyes of how they experience those countries differently or places that are really cool. So tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about yourself.
So for our listeners who don't know me yet, my background was in business finance. Realized I did not love being in an office all the time. That was like, I think maybe the canary in the coal mine of where my life would go. And the transition at that time was to become a high school math teacher, where there was a little more autonomy, a little more independence or freedom, until I started to feel the cage within that of still, as I was looking to start my own family, thinking I'd have to leave my own kids to go, teach in this public school. So that was a transition to teaching online and to real estate investing, which led me to be a real estate agent where you and I connected. So I got into real estate investing really by renting out my basement. It was like, hey, I don't want to have this 30, 45-minute commute to go teach in this public school. I want to have some options. Let's see if we can make some money that might give us some freedom by renting out the basement. It was scary. I hadn't ever rented anything. I'm not from a, real estate investing family, but we did it and it was great. It was the easiest money we made. And that led me down the rabbit hole of real estate investing, other strategies, other properties. And that led me to being a real estate agent. I had a real estate agent team, sold that. And now I am continuing to be a real estate investor. My current focus in that, while I continue to have my portfolio, is now doing private money lending. So I have a business where we lend to people who are doing value add on houses. We give purchase and renovation loans. So if people want to, if listeners know like flipping a house or burring, where you buy, renovate, and then you keep it as a rental, we give people the short-term loans to do that, make that possible. And then through my entrepreneurial journey, I really realized the power of virtual assistants. So the other business that I have is that I have a virtual assistant business, Workergenics, where we help entrepreneurs, business owners in the US get amazing virtual executive assistants to take the bottom 80% off their plates. And so when I sold my real estate team in 2023, we realized our other businesses, our other endeavors were all virtual and we could run them from anywhere. So we said, let's go travel. We've always wanted to do that. And we said we'd do it for a year. And like you said in the intro, it's 2+ years and we are still doing it. I'm joining this call now from Sedona, Arizona. We're here for a couple weeks between a couple real estate conferences, and then we'll go back to Antigua, Guatemala.
Wow, fantastic. We'll get into a little bit of how many countries you've done. But so did you just wake up one day and say, hey, I think we should now start traveling the world? How did that decision come about? And what was your family's reaction to that?
Right. So I think so often in our world, we see things happen. We see other people do things and we're like, oh my gosh, it seems like it happened overnight, or it seemed like they got lucky, or how could they make this happen? And the truth is, we're not seeing like the years of work that went into that transition. And so, really, I've always wanted to like live abroad for a while. I'm sure you got a lot of viewers in Northern Virginia. We lived in Northern Virginia. My husband worked as a defense contractor, and sometimes, opportunities with his company would come up in different locations around the world, and I always be like, "Can we do it? Can we do it?" And it never really made sense. So I've always really wanted to do more of that. And once I had kids, like you mentioned, I have three kids. They are now ages 10, 8, and 6. Once I had kids, I was kind of like, once the oldest one like transitions out of her elementary school, maybe that'll be a good time to like go travel for a year, things like that. But then since 2019, I bought a long distance property. And in 2019, with a long distance property, I realized I couldn't DIY or just like muscle my way through things. And so I had a steep learning curve of being like, I have to have a team. I have to have systems. I have to have processes so that I can manage a property that's 8 hours from where I live because I can't just run over and do a showing or run over and check when there's a leak, right? And so that was a rough transition, of course. And it made me realize, hey, I can be really leveraged and have these other people working and doing work that really isn't my zone of genius anyway. And so that transition in 2019 led me to start saying, how can I leverage other people? How can I use teams to get further faster? And that also gave me location freedom. Right. Because then I didn't have to be those boots on the ground in so many different areas of business. So now, there was one little caveat to that. In 2020, with everything that went on, I moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee from Northern Virginia. And as a real estate agent in a new market, I actually did very well through a couple different things and started a real estate agent team. And that did require me to be physically present, right? Like if I had these agents or whatever, I could travel a lot. And yet at the end of the day, I had to meet with these people in person, right? Even if they were doing the showings or whatever, they had to feel like if they were going to give up some of their commission to be on a team, that I was a present person adding value and helping them. And so in 2023, I decided to sell my real estate team. And as I was in the process of selling it, my husband and I have our monthly family finance meetings and realized in that, as we're kind of evaluating everything, we thought about traveling when the kids were older, but once I sell a real estate team, everything else we have, we can run from anywhere. Who knows if this situation will continue to exist? Let's jump at the chance and start traveling now. So he and I have always been on the same page about doing that. The kids were on board. They thought it'd be fun. And we've kind of had their buy in the whole way. So we originally all agreed we'd do it for a year. About 6 months in, we needed to start planning past that year mark. And so we sat down as a family and we were like, hey guys, we said we'd do it for a year. Do you guys want to keep going? And everybody has said yes. So we're, like I said, over 2 years in now. We are looking and in the process of getting a home base in Antigua, Guatemala to spend about 6 months a year because the kids do want like a place to put their stuff. We travel with everything, like you mentioned. And so I would like to maybe have a place where we can store stuff and then we can travel lighter. We can do carry on only. I'm sick and tired of like showing up to the airport early to check my bag and then waiting at the airport for my bag to come off the belt. I'd like to be able to have a place, have everything set up there that's well, and then we can still continue to travel a lot and do it in a little bit lighter of a fashion.
Yeah, it's interesting. And in 2019, the beginning of the year, I did 39,000 miles around the world by myself, and I had just a little carry-on, right? So you can learn to live with less, and I think that's part of. There's a couple things that go into that mentality, right? It's like, what do I do with all my stuff? You're better off to get rid of it. And I know you've talked before about we accumulate a lot of things, right? We're a consumption society in the
Mm.
U.S. And you look at it like, how many shoes do I have? How many things that? And I was just telling my husband, I'm like, I need to downsize again, right? Because I'm like, I'm looking at this stuff, and we're traveling all the time as well. And so it's interesting what I have found with a lot of people is as they slow travel or fast travel or travel all the time, but then you get to the point where you really feel like you need a base, right? Not just with kids, even with adults, like you need to like take a step back for a minute and then start over. So that's cool. Why Antigua?
So, good question. And it's funny because early in our travels, one of the first things we did is do a cruise from Miami through the Caribbean, through the Panama Canal, and up the West Coast. And it stopped in Guatemala. And there was like a day trip option to Antigua. And we didn't even like do it then. It was like, okay, yeah, whatever. I don't want to go on that bumpy bus ride for an hour and a half. So, it isn't like I've had this long-term value. But the thing is, I think places and people and opportunities and ideas come to you or spark, within you when it's the right time for you, right? And it's possible that if we had really like I guess known how Antigua would be a good fit for us back then, we may not have had these amazing experiences traveling and my kids may not have been to 6 continents already. And so it was more like in our journey when we did get to that point where, like you said, you kind of want that base. I'm kind of tired of, uncomfortable beds, right? Like in Airbnbs, it's a hit or miss. Is it going to be a great bed or not? Are they going to have, a tea kettle so I can actually make my tea without just boiling water in a pot, which if you're a tea person, just isn't as nice and things like that. And so that we started to feel that. And the reason Antigua is one, we do have US associated businesses. Being in a US time zone is nice. We have spent months in Vietnam, which is when we were there, it depends on daylight savings, but often 12 hours ahead of East Coast time. And by virtue of our businesses, my husband and I do have one-on-one calls. We do network with people, and we have to be available over all continental US time zones. So we can't just optimize like we're going to stay up late or get up early for East Coast time because it's not like we're just working for somebody who has East Coast hours. We can have calls with people all the way from Pacific, Mountain, Central, and East Coast, which when you're someplace that's 12 hours ahead of East Coast, is like we just would I chose 3 days a week where I would stay up until 1 a.m. to have these calls. And it's tiring, it's exhausting, and it's not something I want to do all the time. So the time zone piece was really great. And then when you look at Central and South America, my daughter and I don't love the hot, humid weather. I know you love Panama, Cynthia, and I love visiting. And like Panama City, I can tolerate it for a few days. And so a lot of really popular places get crossed off the list because they're coastal and they're really hot and humid. And Antigua is at around 4,500 feet of elevation, so it has a more moderate climate. It doesn't get quite as hot or as humid as it does on the coast. And it's really conveniently located about 1 to 2 hours from Guatemala City, which has a large international airport with multiple flights to the US. So it was something where we've been away from family. We've been away from the US for a few years. We'd like to be a little bit more US adjacent, a little bit more convenient for going to conferences, for having family visit us, also having great weather, and also having, I guess I shouldn't have left this for the last because it's one of the most important things is the culture and the community. Having traveled the world, we really didn't want I don't desire to be a part of like American everyday culture. And again, right? Like the consumerism, the car-based culture, the fast food, the huge highways, the fact that when like there's no sidewalks or the sidewalks that go to nowhere, right? They just randomly end like not being walkable. All of those things, there's just a lot. Unhealthy foods, all of those things that we've enjoyed the alternatives elsewhere. And so when we were like, if we wanted to be convenient to US time zone, US obligations without having to be in the US, what are some great options that have the right weather? And Antigua is this beautiful historic city with these cobblestone streets. It has the natural beauty of these great volcanoes that you can see. And so it really was something where it's like kind of like paradise, and we can be there every day instead of being in, um, standard suburbia.
Yeah. I know once you start traveling the world, you get itchy sometimes when you stay in a place too long, or you're like, I'm not going back to that. So I find that a lot
Mhm.
with me too, because sometimes we have a base in the US and it's like after a certain amount of time, I start to get anxious. And I realize now it's like, because I'm not traveling, I need to be out there doing that. And so for a lot of people, the scary part is, which I think you've taken that off of the list, is like, how can I make money while I'm traveling? Because there's obviously digital nomads and all different kinds of things that you can do online. But we live in such a different world now, which is great because you can set up everything, and you have some opportunities that will make sure that at the end we give everybody your information, that if they want to know a little bit more about what it is that you do and how they can become involved and maybe make their money work for them, right? Instead of
Mhm.
working for money, which is the goal of all of us. But I do have a couple more travel questions and more questions with
Yeah.
kids. So how do you choose? You said you have the buy-in from the kids. How do you choose where you're going? Because I know personally, it takes a lot of time to research things to make sure that you're going somewhere and we don't always get it right, right? So we have to pivot sometimes. But so how do you set that up? Like, is it how much in advance, and how do you choose where you're going and things like that?
I know you know from how you said it, like it's not just this like spur of the moment, oh yeah, we'll go there or anything like that. Especially as a family of five, we are often, if we're, because we do typically slow travel unless we're doing like a vacation-y thing. We do typically slow travel, meaning we're going to stay in one spot for anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, right? One city, we might do a couple different cities within a country. And so we do like we're going to get an Airbnb. We're going to have like a 3 bedroom ideally. Like it does take a little more work than being like spur of the moment. I'm just going to go get whatever hotel room I want. Right. And so we typically are planning 6 to 9 months out because we want to have the availability on those Airbnbs of being able to book for 4 weeks or more. And if you book shorter term, well, even if they have a one weekend booking, that Airbnb is not available for us unless we want to hop between places, which we do not. So we typically do plan 6 to 9 months out to have the availability that we need for stays. That's the first thing. And we choose locations kind of like sometimes it's because there's a conference or an event or something like that that we want to do there. And then we've also chosen them because it's where people want to go and based on people's interests. So my daughter chose that she wanted to go to Japan. And that was really difficult for us to plan at first. And I almost like threw in the towel and said no because Japanese housing is very different from US housing, right? And
Mhm.
it's very small, very compact. And we all, the kids homeschool at home, we work at home. It was like normally we have a place, like I said, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, ideally like a desk. So we're not all working on the kitchen table and things like that. And that stuff wasn't available in Japan. And so it was really difficult to be like, where could we find an Airbnb that actually would work for us? And to be honest, well, we love Japan and we had a great 2 months there. And the kids, it's one of the top places. And we've already gone back, we've already gone to Japan a second time. And we'd probably be a third time within the next year if I could guess. And yet for long-term travel, it was challenging. I honestly worked from I don't know what you would call like I had to sit on a cushion like on the floor working on like a floor desk type thing, right? Because they didn't have regular desks and chairs. For my husband, we Costco or Japan does have a couple Costco's. So we did go get a folding table from Costco that he used as his desk while we were there. So we had to get a little out of the box. So we do try to incorporate the kids' interests. Sometimes it does get tricky, but it also makes us grow when we're outside of our comfort zone. So we chose Japan because my daughter wanted to go there. We chose Vietnam because I wanted to go there. Now, in the Philippines, we did swimming with whale sharks because one of my sons loves anything aquatic and anything like that. So we swam with whale sharks and we swam with sardines, which was both very cool. So we kind of do go off of our preferences and what we want, and then also what we can work. And weather is a big thing, but it's tricky. It's really tricky. So there is a website, Weather Spark, that I use to get averages, right? So I'm like, if we're thinking about, so for example, we spent June and July in Lima, Peru, and it's supposed to be winter there, south of the equator. That's what we wanted. We wanted like a little bit cooler because it's not like it's that cold in winter, right? But like cooler, like pants and coat weather where it's not going to be super crowded because, every place gets crowded in summer. Well, we get to Lima and it's an El Nino year, which you can't predict El Nino years. They happen between every 3 and every 7 years. And so it's unseasonably warm. And in fact, several heat records were set while we were there. And we had a Airbnb that was an apartment with no air conditioning, which should have been fine if it was a normal winter. And we were facing north, which is facing the sun, since, in the southern hemisphere. So that thing was just baking some afternoons when it was sunny, and we would actually leave and go find other places to work and be. So we try to look at weather and look at the weather averages, but like there's a huge asterisk on that it's hard to predict.
Definitely, definitely, because you never know when the rains are coming in or not. And yeah, that's my husband's thing. He doesn't like winter, right? So when it gets to be about 50 degrees, he's ready to roll. He's like, "Where are we going? I think it's going to
Mhm.
snow." I'm like, "No, no, no. I think we're good. We're good here." But
That is a
also,
nice thing. You can't avoid winter. We have.
yeah, you can for sure. And so I guess that because part of that is regards to clothing, right? So you're trying to be minimalist when you're traveling. And then
Right.
you get caught up in, oh my gosh, it's so hot. We were prepared for this cooler weather. Now, do we have to go out and buy shorts and sneakers and t-shirts or something so that we can survive, right? Some of my friends actually go to the thrift stores in other countries and just buy a few things and then leave a few things. And just interesting, I don't know if you guys have ever done this because you stay mostly in Airbnbs, but she said I thought that I was doing a favor when I left behind my clothes or my shoes that I didn't need anymore, that they could take them and use them or do whatever. And she said, actually, it causes more of a problem. You're better off to donate them back because then it becomes the issue of whoever the person's cleaning it or owns it. And now it's their responsibility to get rid of it. They don't want it, right? Just because you don't want it, you think, oh, well, they could use it, but it doesn't always happen like that. She's like, and I learned that lesson the hard way. So just for our viewers, if you're traveling and you're thinking, oh gosh, I'm just going to leave my stuff because somebody's going to want it, it can become an issue for them on the other end. And they may just toss it in the trash, right? Because they
Right.
don't know what else to do with it. So, but always interesting weather and traveling. Okay. What was the biggest fear you had before taking the leap?
It's funny because I actually taught high school before, and yet I remember when we said, okay, yes, we can start traveling now, let's do it. The biggest fear was homeschooling my own children. And they were in, I think, second grade, kindergarten, and like preschool at the time. And I was like, I gotta homeschool little kids. It was a little terrifying. And in fact, we ended up for the older two pulling them out of school at winter break, even though we weren't going to start traveling for another couple of months, so that we could have a couple months of testing out what we were going to do for homeschooling. So while we were in the US, we had access to Amazon, technology, whatever we needed, we could pivot if needed. But honestly, that fear was totally unfounded. And homeschooling has gone so much better, and my kids are doing so much better than they were even in great schools. And so it's been an unexpected blessing of this travel. So I would say if anybody's thinking of traveling and worrying about homeschooling, or just, thinking about homeschooling or scared of homeschooling in general, it is so much easier, and you don't need a teaching credential and you don't need a ton of time because there's a ton of online options that are fabulous. So my kids use a program called Me Academy, and pretty much I can assign them whatever lessons I want. I can say which days they're going to do it. Are they going to do it Monday through Friday, Monday through Wednesday? How long do I want them to work on it? Like, do I want them to finish the course in 6 weeks or 6 months? And then it figures it all out, and they pretty much they work through the units, they watch a video, they do some practice, they do the assessment. And I can set standards in the assessment, like they need an 80% to pass, that they can get free response and multiple choice, different things like that. So it's I think a lot of these programs have really perfected that mix of giving the parent some control without overwhelming the parent. So it's gone really easily. My kids often do their homeschool while we're working. And then when they just have issues, like my daughter, the math is not her jam. So she'll be like, hey, I need help with math. And we sit down and we go through it together. But it's really, and then we do supplement. We do have like journaling and handwriting, because that's really important to me that my older two learned cursive because they were in a Montessori school, and like you need to maintain your cursive plus your print and all of that. So we do supplement with some things, but it's really they don't need a whole library. They just need their tablet, their headphones, a few other things. It's very light and portable, and they learn so much more than they did in school because their time isn't wasted on all the bureaucracy and overhead of school. Pretty much, they do their lessons. They watch other documentaries that they think are cool, and then they do their hobbies. So my oldest has taught herself to crochet. She's very artistic. Now she's doing like wool felting. She'll just take on these new hobbies. She's done beading. My middle one loves chess. So every day, in addition to his basics, he's watching YouTube videos on chess, and he's playing games with other people in chess and doing everything like that. And so they really get to excel and learn more than they did in their other school system. So that was my biggest fear, and it's ended up being amazing. Where even if we were to settle in a place for them where they could go to school, which I don't think we'd ever be there 9 or 10 months a year, but if we were, we would still continue to homeschool because it just does so well for them.
Yeah. And it's really hard to beat world schooling. I mean, I'm with one of your sons. I want to swim with the whale sharks as well. I've swam with nurse sharks, but not whale sharks. And one of my goals is to go down in cage and off of South Africa and swim, with the great whites down there. And I was going
That
to
would
do
be
it when
cool.
we did our world cruise, except that we were there at the wrong time because there's
Mm.
breeding times and they kind of come in and come out.
Yeah.
So we didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't actually make it for that, but that's on my list. But I mean, the things your children are learning, in person, not just in a book, right? Because you can look up Japan in a book, and you can look at a fast train, but to actually be on one and to see one, experience that, I mean, just amazing the world that you're giving them. Do they ever say, "We're done, let's go home, let's go back"?
They only miss some of their toys because we did rent out our primary residence because we are real estate investors, so it's like let's keep it and have it as a rental. And we took things that were like keepsakes or they really loved. We put it into a small storage unit, and so that's one thing with getting a home base in Antigua. They're excited to have some of their toys. My youngest wants his Brio trains, right? My oldest wants some of her like stuffed animals and her American Girl doll, things like that. But honestly, if they can have a base where they can have some of those like keepsakes that they love to play with and enjoy, for part of the year, that's all they want. Otherwise, they love it, and they actually. I mean, I swear, my youngest all the time. He's 6.5, right? And he's like, "When do we get to go back to Japan?" He wants to go back to Japan. He wants to go back to the onsens in Japan. So, for viewers who don't know that, those are like the natural Japanese hot springs. Like, it's not something that many 6-year-old American boys are like, "I love that.
Right.
I can't wait to go back." But they've really, it's a blessing and a curse because they've definitely got a taste for all these really cool things around the world. But now that they know about it, they're going to want to keep going and enjoying it?
Yep, love, you've created some monsters, some travel monsters, which is awesome. I'm so excited about that. So I have a few more questions for you, but I want to do a
Yeah.
speed round with you. You ready?
Okay.
Window or
Let's go.
aisle? Window or aisle?
Aisle. I don't like feeling like I'm trapped.
Mountains or beaches?
Gosh. I love both. I feel like that's why you got to travel. So you can have both.
That's a great answer. Airbnb or hotel?
Honestly, I do love hotels. They're so cushy and you have all the amenities. If I could stay in a hotel every night, I would.
I get it because somebody cleans for you and you get fresh towels. There's not all of that.
And they
Yep.
have more comfortable beds. Overall, much better beds.
Yeah, I agree. And we found a favorite, but I won't mention on here. But now my sister's hooked on the same ones. So backpack or suitcase?
Suitcase. Backpacks hurt my shoulders. Like as little of the time we can do the backpack, the better.
Yep, I agree. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Favorite airline?
American Airlines we've been had some good times on American Airlines recently. I would choose them.
Yeah, okay. Favorite travel app?
Hmm. I think I would go with that Weather Spark, the weather app that we use. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite travel gadget?
Travel gadget. We do travel with a like a suitcase scale. They're
Mm,
so small, and that way you just know before you get to the airport if it's too heavy. So I do think that there was a time when we didn't have a suitcase scale, and when I saw one for sale that we could get, I got it. So suitcase scale is worth it if you're
yeah,
doing checked bags.
definitely, definitely. I know. Then you don't have to do that hustle at the counter where you're moving stuff all around or shoving stuff in your backpack. Yeah, yeah. I think we all have those stories of you can't take that on the plane. So, most used item in your backpack.
The first thing that comes to mind is I carry like one Sharpie. We try not to carry like too many redundant things, but there's a lot of opportunities to use a Sharpie. Like it comes up a lot. Like we're even in like a hotel situation now, and we have two rooms, and it was just nice to be able to Sharpie like floor one or floor two for our two different rooms. Like a Sharpie is good to have.
Okay, I'll have to keep that in mind to always have one of those because I love office supplies and highlighters and stuff, and that's the problem I have. It's like, why do I have all these pens and pencils in here? Best meal you've ever had?
Oh my, okay. So the first thing that comes to mind, I don't necessarily, it was pretty amazing. I'm not going to say it was necessarily the best, it was pretty amazing. Is we went on our second trip to Japan, we went to Sapporo, like the northernmost island, and we went in December. And one of the things we did is we went to this onsen town. And when you stay at the onsen, you they have like a buffet restaurant and you get breakfast and dinner there. And it's amazing. So like the dinner buffet and the Noborobetsu onsen, everybody in the family could find stuff that they loved, and they give you like the Japanese house robes to wear while you're there, and they had all this like beautiful Japanese food. And Sapporo is known for its milk and its dairy, and so they had like Sapporo dairy ice cream and everything like that. And the Japanese just like have such a high standard when it comes to food. So the dinner buffet at the Noborobetsu onsen.
Very good. And that must be where your youngest son gets it, right? Something that's what he wants to go
Yeah.
back to. But, okay. Your dream destination that's still on your list.
Antarctica. We've got to make it to continent number 7.
Yes, absolutely. And just a word, I didn't do this, but some people did is they made a sign and took with them that said
Mm.
last continent. Fortunately, the ship that we were on, they gave us a little thing. It was their flag and had somebody had written with a Sharpie last continent. So, but it was kind of cool. I watched some of these other people. I'm like, oh, that was such a great idea to bring your own sign, and then you can either put your names on or do something, but that's meaningful while you're actually there. So just a little tip for you for your future one.
That's a
Yeah,
great idea. I love it.
I know you don't want to be carrying a lot of stuff, but something. Now we had somebody else who actually had a little something too. They were having everybody that was on the ship sign it, which was really kind of cool too. So,
That is
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, we'll have to talk a little bit about what my trip was like and share some stories so maybe I can help you do your Antarctica trip. All right. Has traveling changed your definition of success?
Oh, definitely. 100%. It's like in the US, you really have, you don't even realize that you have it. I didn't realize it's like to the full extent. So if you're listening and you're like, I can't even comprehend this, like I get that. I was there. But there really is such a hustle culture and an idea that success is attributed or connected to these external uh shows, right? If you've got like the house, the car, anything like that. And it's just in just being busy, right? That's a sign of success in the US. How busy are you, right? It's ridiculous. And even if you're not thinking in terms of success in like a business standpoint, if you're like somebody who's the primary caretaker at home, is your success based on how much your children are achieving in their sports or in their schools or anything like this, right? Like we have to get the gold stars in life. Like that's the American mentality. And so I think success is now more of like being present in the moment and enjoying it and having the opportunity and freedom to really do things that fulfill us, right? And that bring us joy and happiness and not just things that check the box.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer because I think sometimes we don't recognize that experiences are really a lot more fulfilling than getting that new car or the new and latest phone that's out there, whatever that you can look back on it. Which leads me to my next question: is that when you're 90, what do you hope this adventure meant to your family?
One of our primary goals in doing this was I've got these 3 kids, they're 2.5 years apart between all of them, that they form close bonds because if you think of the conventional American lifestyle, every child is in a grade with their own classmates. They're not necessarily with their siblings, and they're playing sports with the people on their sports team, not with their siblings. And we see where people are more connected to their friends or their peers than they are to their family members. And so when I am 90, I really hope that I am seeing that my 3 children, who are in their 50s at that point, are our best friends, right? That they still are close, that hopefully their families and their children are close, and that we really create this generational aspect of being close to your siblings and helping each other and being on the same team.
Very cool. And wouldn't it be really awesome if that your children decided that they were going to travel with their children, either together or separately? So that would be really that's a great goal for that. All right, I've got some more for you. If
Sure.
someone watching wants to begin traveling more, what's the first step that you would recommend?
I would say don't overthink it and don't try to like micromanage it, right? People, because that ends up getting in the way, right? Have faith that you're going to have the trip that you're meant to have, and that you just do the best that you can, and that's enough. That's what I would recommend starting with. Yeah, because I just think people just they freak out about it. They freak out about all of it, and it's all going to be okay.
It all works out when I
Yeah.
and there's a book called It's All Figure Outable, right? It just
Yes.
takes a little bit of time. You have to take a deep breath and not panic because
Mhm.
it's easy, right? And not point fingers, and there's no blame while you're out there because you're all
Right,
working
right.
together as a team trying to make things
Yeah.
happen. So, what's one piece of advice you wish someone had given you before you started?
I think in it would be this, that like the world is a safer place than American media makes it out to be. That's what I would say. American media, American culture is very much like America's amazing and all these other places are dangerous and we hear about these crazy things on the news. And, it's really that every place you've got families, you have moms and dads and kids and everything that's not unique to America. And you're going to be pretty safe if you're not doing something stupid or illegal. Okay. That's something I think that culture wants to keep you feeling like these other places are dangerous. And they're really not.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just wrong place, wrong time that things happen to people as well. But that was one question I was going to ask a little bit about is feeling safe and what do you do in terms of safety and security? Is there anything special with, especially traveling with three kids?
Right. So the only place we've actually seen a crime committed is when we were having an overnight in Los Angeles. And that was when we were walking into a store and somebody ran out and shoplifted and the alarms went out. That's the only place we've actually seen a crime. The only place we have felt unsafe is in London, which again, American culture idealizes London and, England. And that was that that was the only place we felt unsafe. We don't have to go into the whole story of that. But in general, people like kids and people watch out for families, right? That's what I would say. You have this idea, like again, coming from America, I was like, hey, are people going to see me as like an easy target if I'm walking with three young kids? Especially when we left, they were 4, 6, and 8, right? If I'm walking down the streets of Cartagena, Colombia, myself with those two kids because my husband's doing something else, like, are people going to be like, I'm an easy person to pickpocket or grab my purse or things like that? And the truth is that in general, it's the exact opposite. Especially I think in the Latin American countries, people value families and they look out for them. So I know another time when we were in Medellin, Colombia, I was trying to take the kids to like a park for a like meetup, and the address that I had from like the people organizing the meetup didn't actually take us to the park. And it was their equivalent of Uber, and the driver like talked to like the different security guards and stuff, and he figured out where we were supposed to be and made sure that we were in the right place before he dropped us off. He didn't just take us to the address that I had given him and leave us there in the wrong place. So I think for safety and security with kids, we do stay together. We do the sandwich because we walk a lot. And that's one thing in the US you don't think about. So we say like, adults are at the front and the back and the kids are in the middle of the sandwich. So they're not running ahead or trailing behind or anything. But other than that, it's just the same we would do in the US. Oh, also, the other thing is for safety, a lot of people they travel and they stress about car seats and car security with young kids. And the truth is, it's really if you really really care about that, that is tough. I've had to just kind of like let it go because there will be cars we get in and it's like, oh, there just are no seatbelts. There just are no seatbelts. Like, or there's a seatbelt, but there's no like latch to put it in. And so we just have to just be like, this is how it is. Like these are cars we've gotten on Uber or whatever like the regional equivalent is. Um, and so we do the best we can with what we have. If there is a seatbelt, we put it on. But if there isn't, I can't make a seatbelt or a seatbelt latch be there,
Right.
so I'm going
Right.
to accept it.
Yeah, and you could drive yourself crazy trying to check car after car. So one of
Yeah.
the things that I always tell people is that you have to be cautious without being paranoid. right? Like, don't just put down your guard 100% thinking, oh, we're in this country and it's so safe. You're just cautious, right? Without thinking that everybody is out to get you so that you can actually enjoy your time. All right. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
I have a website, adriennegreen.com. I'd love for you to check it out. I actually have a time and freedom starter pack there that you can get right on the main page for free. So if anybody's kind of like, how would I get started on having time and freedom to do things like this? That kind of walks you through some of the stuff that was really pivotal and transformational for me. I'm also on all the different social media channels. So if you guys search Adrienne Green, I'm sure you'll see me there and I'd be happy to connect or, you can DM me as well.
Right. And you've got a lot of great videos of people that you've talked to who are doing a lot of investing. Not all of them are traveling like you. But again, we go back to if people want to know how can they make money while they're traveling, you've got the answers for all of that and can guide them down a good path. So we need to wrap up, but I have one last question for you. So be
Mhm.
honest, if someone handed you $10 million tomorrow, would you stop traveling or would you keep living exactly the way that you do now?
Oh, I would the first thing that came to mind is sweet, that makes it really easy to go to Antarctica because we were talking about how expensive it is. So I think since that was my very first thought, we know that I would keep traveling.
You're traveling. Fantastic. And I am going to keep watching you, Adrienne Green, traveling around the world and your family and just watching these babies grow up because when we first met, your youngest was, I think, just born. And I was like, he was so cute. So it's
Aw,
amazing to share this journey with you. And thank you for spending some time with us. And I look forward to getting back with you again. Maybe we could do this another time.
yes.
Once you get back from Antarctica, we'll talk about that. So
That'd be cool. Thank you,
yeah,
Cynthia. This has been
thank
fun.
you. Yeah, for sure. Thanks.